Korea would lose its soul. Like,
I just want to say perfectionism. Yeah.
oh, that's cool.
We should always remember our roots.
That's a really cool answer.
I'm sorry, Sam, but you said about the kimchi.
Yeah.
But it's kimchi, not kimchi. What are you hearing, Sam?
I'm just enjoying.
Not so much talk about multicultural issues, opportunities, and obstacles, but we want to explore them together. But at a moment in history when Korea and Korean culture is being blasted around the world and people are taking it in and enjoying it and being fascinated by it and learning what is Korean, actually here in Korea, the politeness, a lot of respect.
When talking to a Korean person, they're proud about their country.
How about before you came? What would you have said? What is Korean?
Before I came here, I read a book called Korea, Impossible Country. Korea is a country which is very powerful because it has gone from 60 years ago when the country was restarting to like one of the biggest, most media powerful countries in the world. And I think this diligence, hard work, and this rising from the ashes really spoke to me and really was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Korea.
Does anybody else who's not Korean, would anyone add, is there anything they would add to it?
That what struck out for me the most was that Koreans are really quiet. In the subway, in the library, it's very quiet and respectful, which is totally different to most countries I've been to.
So Korean people in general can be very nice. Yes, that is true. However, Koreans also don't like to associate with foreigners. Like, I just talk to anybody, and it has become a problem in Korea. Also,
You need about 10 Koreans to contain your extrovert energy.
yeah.
Yeah. Just the moment you took the microphone, you were like, okay, that's not Korean right there. Well, let's ask Koreans.
Korean is really passionate people.
Passionate, another key word. We have polite, a couple other passionate. Okay, passionate. What does that mean, passionate?
They always work hard and live hard.
Live hard?
Yeah.
Live hard.
They always try to spend their time
Efficiently?
efficiently. Yeah.
The word caring, that just comes up in my mind because we really care each other. And do you know the word tone? I think that's like the Korean word that is really hard to translate in English because tone is like certain affection or the closeness that we feel each other, even if we're not that close or we don't know each other. But sometimes because of that caring things, I think we think too much about other people's opinion. Yeah, I mean,
Concern.
yeah, good and bad.
Mm-hmm. When you say we care about each other, who is that?
It's not only the small scope, but it's broader than the other foreigner compared to other countries. I think the people that we care, it's broad.
What is the one thing that if Korea lost, Korea would lose its soul, like that part of it?
It would no longer be Korean.
It just would no longer be Korea.
I think food. There are many Korean food, but there are also many fusion food. Not many traditional Korean food in Korea.
Yeah.
I do want to just emphasize though what you said, like Korea would lose its soul if the food, if you lost, that's so intense.
Yeah,
That's so deep. That's not every culture could say that. I could certainly not say that in the United States. We wouldn't say like what food would we?
No. And I think that's part of the, well, that's the awesome Korea piece, right? It's like the food. There's something. We had a conversation at lunch today.
So I'm picturing like other cultures here and different foods, and all of a sudden you might feel like, ooh, wait, what's happening to my Korea?
I think they want to do work as perfect as possible. I really see so many students work hard and do their best and work really diligently. I think those kind of behavior or mindset is what makes Korean Korean. Yeah. So you talk about the K-pop or something like that, and I think the delicate point of K-pop, that's what makes K-pop so popular. That's my opinion. I just want to say perfectionism. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
For a long time, it has been a single cultural country for a long time, and in the stages of changing into an international country, we should always remember our roots. It is great to be more multicultural and international, but if we forget our history, it won't be Korea. More diversity, that is great, but if the world is going into a single direction that is called multiculturalism and diversity, that is just one culture all over again.
That's a really cool answer. And it reminds me of how when people start to enter into another country, they also have the ability to start to write the history of that country and the story of that country. And so other people coming into Korea will have a different interpretation of Korean history. And because they're now part of Korea, Koreans have to listen to their interpretation, because their interpretation will also have some truth to it. And so it really is fascinating. What you're saying is like you really lose a lot when you lose the story that you've had for a long time. How about this? What's one way in which Germany is definitely different than Korea?
I can somehow, I kind of feel happier being here than in Germany, because in German culture, it's more about really just looking out for yourself. What you said, I think, earlier about being aware. One example for sure that I was so shocked about is in the subway also. I was always wondering in the beginning when I first moved here why Koreans always put their back into the front. In Germany, people would think, I don't want anybody stealing my things, and they would have these kind of evil thoughts.
Yeah.
And so I always assumed they do the same, they don't want anybody to steal their things.
Yeah.
But then I learned from my Korean friends, the only thought they have is because when they turn, they don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah, you realize nobody's stealing anything.
Yeah,
here,
exactly.
so.
And that was so different to Europe. It's so very different, and I was really shocked when I heard that, and but I really liked hearing that actually. Yeah.
Isn't it really nice, by the way? And for any American, isn't it nice to just be in a country where you're not thinking about having your stuff stolen all the time? It's so nice,
you
right?
Just leave your things anywhere, and nobody even thinks about taking it. In Europe, it's a different story for sure.
Yeah, I put my phone in my back pocket. We never do that in like New York. You got to put it in your front pocket.
So with all that we're talking about, it seems pretty gentle, pretty nice. I mean, there's things that are different that might cause confusion or whatever. But what is the core reason that we need to talk about, that we're talking about this?
Well, it's not, oh my God, we're going to have foreign workers. It is, Korea is going to change, and from what Korea has been. The young people in here, your grandparents' Korea is not going to be your children's Korea, right? We could all be one country, we could all be different countries, every country could be divided into 4. It really doesn't matter. It's just human beings will be different, we'll be the same, we'll get along, we won't get along. In the end, the history of life on this planet is the history of nation states arising and falling and ethnic groups dividing, and that's just how it is in the world, and that's how it will be. Look at Europe. Look at the past 500 years of Europe. If you ever watch a map of Europe and it just changes so much, it's so fascinating. But there is a way in which, there are certain pieces of certain countries, certain places, like the United States, even though we're a country made up of so many people from around the world, it's still an awesome country because of that. It has its own unique flavor. The way we live, people come from around the world and they live together. And they build these new cultures. Your culture has gone out over the world and people have responded. as they respond, things begin to change. The wave is actually not the wave going that way, but the wave coming back. And the wave is coming, right, with more and more people wanting to be part of Korea. But as more and more people want to be part of Korea, that means Korea changes, okay? What would change here that you would just be really unhappy with?
I do not really want it happen, but when we lose our own language, especially Korean, it would be really unhappy for us, because I guess all of Koreans really proud of our own language and characters made by Kim Sejong. In Korea, we can easily find some places that only have English. You know, some places and some famous cafe, they only have English menus. I mean, so some elderly people or who don't really like studying English or speaking English, they can understand what it means. I mean, English in Korean is really okay, but I feel like some places trying to use only English, even though it is in Korea.
Mm-hmm. Korea is the only country that we use our own alphabet and language, like even though after some country conquered us, like for example, when you think about Ecuador or Brazil, like the kind of countries, they lost their own language after conquered by other countries. But we still using our own language, and we're really proud of that. Lots of people struggle for that. There's a really fun thing in our culture. We have a meme that the accent about the foreigner accent and real Korean accent. But in English, when you think about that, there's a lot of accent, like French accent, Spanish accent, and like even in America, there's a lot of accent. But we don't judge them about that. Like, and we can embrace the whole accent of English, and we don't say it's wrong. It's just like their own, like the way how to say it. In Korea, there's a specific Korean accent that we can distinguish that is a foreign Korean and is a real Korean. So these days, lots of foreigners tries to study the Korean, but I'm worrying about that we're gonna lose our spirit about the Korean. Like for example, I'm sorry Sam, but you said about the kimchi.
Yeah.
But it's kimchi, not kimchi. Like that. but if the time is passing, it becomes really close to the real Korean accent. But for me, I think it's good, but in the opposite side, at the same time, I'm worrying about we're gonna lose our own thing.
I'm thinking as you were talking, it reminded me of, you know, you have a home and you're a family and you invite people, you welcome people into your home, but they don't become your brothers and sisters maybe, or that, right? There's like family and then there's friends, cousins, whatever, but like how can, so if you just keep adding people to your house, you can't live like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just making me think of like I have a family,
Yeah.
and that's unique. We have a culture, and it's unique.
Yeah.
And there's parts I don't want to lose, right? By the way, this is not. We don't talk about culture or multiculturalism like this, right? Because what we normally are talking about is how we should just accept whatever it is that's changing, i.e. other cultures, other ways, other traditions, because this is the right way, right? And we're actually doing the opposite. We're talking about what do we not want to lose, which is the reason that people fight against multiculturalism, because we're connected to things, right? So anyway, I'm just saying it's very interesting that we're able to, even how difficult it is, come up with some things that are precious to us. And I think, you know, for people like us in the United States, it's very hard to identify the culture because it's so many cultures, right? So what are you hearing, Sam?
I'm just enjoying. No, I think it's I love what all of you said. I think it's a really valuable. So, like, what is the Korean way and K-culture? It only exists because of Korea is the culture that it is and has been for so long, in many ways, closed off to other parts of the world. They have a singularity of it, the Koreanness, right? So that's what creates that kind of energy. It's kind of, if you watch K-pop groups and they all they're all really tight and precise, and they're all the same. Like they do everything the same. Well, that's symbolic in many ways of many aspects of Korean culture. Except the fusion in the food, by the way. Koreans are also good at that.
Can someone say, as you've been listening, because this is what we do as humans, we put pieces together, so there's no right answer. What are you hearing what are the obstacles that you're hearing?
I like to talk about Korean people like to find similarities because when you on first date or first person, we ask what is your hobby or what is you like to do, because we like to find similarities, but Korean people should find and understand the difference.
You're saying something really, really cool, which is just we tend to focus on the similarities, and that's how we build relationships and community, but we should get better at seeing differences and appreciating them. Is that what you, and being prepared for that in the world? Great.
I love so many. This is what's cool. So many different ideas. Yeah, thank you. I agree, and it's really, really a privilege to hear from many different people, and it makes what we do much more interesting, I will say.
Our hope is that this is the beginning of a conversation. What is Korea, or what is whatever culture you're from, and what about that do we care about, and how much of that can we push, and are we interested in a one world culture? I love that. Thank you so much.